Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Butterfly Evolution Radio Show. We usually have you guys join us on Tuesday nights, but this is a special occasion, special edition for a very special and much needed book. Marriage is not for everyone. So, you guys, welcome again. Thank you guys for choosing Butterfly Evolution Radio tonight. Just thank you. Hope everyone is well. I did learn kind of late about what's going on as far as the weather. I hope our Louisiana people are doing well. Check in if you're out there and listening. Let us know that you're good and okay. So, how is everybody tonight? Rodney's going to be on mute a little bit because he has the little one and she's watching
Peppa
something.
Pig.
Pepper Pig. And our author, our special guest, Mr. Hamilton, is going to share some things with us tonight. Mr. Hamilton, welcome and thank you for choosing and joining us and allowing us to interview you about this again. Very much needed. Don't know how to get it in the book. All right, you guys. So welcome. Rodney, you want to go ahead and tell them about, you want me to do it since you have the little one, our trash can baby?
That's fine.
Okay, so you guys, if you are new, because we have a special guest, probably a first time listener as well. So hopefully some of his audience and his tribe is listening to us. Butterfly Evolution is simply about transformation, transforming your life, taking the responsibility and being accountable for not just who you are, where you are, how you got there. And that is I'll say this, it was for me one of the most difficult things to receive, process, and understand that I had to take responsibility for um, things and things that had been done to me, people, places, all of those things. Because sometimes the things that we hold on to and the things that we take into marriage has nothing to do with us. Sometimes it's the way that we perceive them, receive them, and hold on to them that keeps us um, bound and in bondage. So it is simply about transforming your life, taking responsibility and the accountability for your well-being. So we do this fun thing, and I'm so excited that one of our listeners, longtime listeners, Kevin Lane, we finally got him to move his trash can, and I saw his comment like, "Dang it, I'm gonna move my trash can back." We ask that you move your trash can, make it a family thing, a friend thing, or whatever you need to do to make it happen. We ask that you move your trash can, preferably one that you use quite often. And doing so, well, let me say the reason for doing this is to promote and to allow you to see that we can get in life, we can get in autopilot mode, meaning we just live based on where we come from, how we thought. We just are on cruise control. We do the same things, we go to work the same way, we eat the same things. We just become accustomed to what is and not becoming. Um, and unlearning some things. So, in moving your trash can, if you're like us and most people, you will find yourself going back to its old location, the location that you moved it from. Ask yourself, why? Knowing that I've moved it, why am I returning to that place? And allow that to help you answer and ask some questions. What else am I doing on autopilot mode? Am I keeping the same thoughts? Am I doing the same things out of bondage and generational curses and so forth? Am I opening myself up to new things? Am I moving things out of my way so that I can welcome new things? So move those trash cans. Tell us about your experiences or experience in moving it. And as I mentioned, if you are a couple, especially, do it as a couple. Move the trash can, and then you guys have fun about how many times each other go back. Count it, put it on the refrigerator and all of that. Okay, something's happening there. So do that and let us know. So again, welcome. Rodney, how are things with you and in Virginia?
Everything is good. Virginia is good. The weather has just been extremely hot here, but I think with the storm moving further inland, we're supposed to get some really bad weather on Wednesday,
Okay.
which I think is going to cool everything off. So everything here is good. I am looking
Okay.
forward to my dad and my brothers and some friends coming this weekend for the UVA football game. We're gonna cook on the grill and then go to the game Saturday night. So looking
Okay.
forward to that.
All right, great stuff. And I'm going to say Mr. Hamilton, but I want you pronounce your first name for me. Is it pronounce it so I don't mistakenly call you the wrong name? How is it pronounced? So you're freezing on us for some reason. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Connection because it's been raining and storming over here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, I kind of figured you guys were going to have some bad weather. I actually thought we might not be able to pull it off here either, but the weather has kind of passed through here. So we can hear you now, and you're not frozen.
Yes.
So you guys be patient with us. It is freezing just a little bit. What I'll do while that's working out, I'm going to go ahead and read the bio. And I think he said Kasin, but I may be wrong. So I'll say Mr. Hamilton is the pastor of Redemption Church in Atlanta, Georgia. He has received his associate in biblical studies religion from Carver College. He also has a bachelor's in psychology counseling from Liberty University and Emory. He has let's see, master religious leadership and social justice. He is also the author of Life is a Sermon, the 40 Commandments of Preachers. He's received numerous awards noting excellence in ministry. Most nobly, he was awarded the Raymond Stark Gimper in college. So I think he's having, again, you guys bear with us. The weather there, I hear, is not so good. So I'm just going to move on and give him time to get back into queue with us. But the name of the book is Marriage is Not for Everyone. And I'm going to keep it pulled up here. You guys, this is one of the most, and this is really a good book. It is so simple and so applicable and yet practical as well. So mute. There you go. So it is a very easy read. I do recommend this for not just people who are single, thinking, well, marriage may not be for me because I'm single. But I put on a post earlier today. If you are single, angry, married, divorced, separated, undecided, confused, whatever it is, it answers your questions in the most simple way that I've ever seen a book about relationships answered. And I'm not just saying that because he's on, because he came recommended by my son cousin. I'll say he's my cousin, but he's like a son to me. So and I got a copy of it in the mail from him, and really a good book. So I do recommend it. So you're back with us. Can you hear us now? And we've already told the people about the weather, so don't worry about the freezing. It happens.
Okay.
So do your thing. You got the floor. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, I'm in here.
Okay.
I'm in here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine. You go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you were inspired to write to the book.
I was several years ago. My parents, who was married for near 30 plus years. I saw my mother. After 30 years of marriage, he had to watch his wife pass on.
Mm.
After 30 years, the reality of people signing a contract they never fulfilled, and oftentimes in marriages, but not the bad side of the marriage. We don't think about the bad, the worst, the financial issues, the health, great assets. So at that time, I began to think to myself that oftentimes many people get in relationships or marriages, and I was able to see my parents fulfill the contract of 30 plus years of marriage, and to see that It really changed.
Okay. I know that it's kind of going in and out, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. You guys let us know if you're receiving the same. I see Kevin's out there. Kevin, will you just send me a comment and let us know if you're receiving the freezing as well? It may just be us and okay on that end. But I did hear you say your parents were married for 30 plus years and your dad had to watch your mom leave this world, this side of the world.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Um, So that was how did that inspire the book? Marriage is not for everyone, or did that not play a part in the inspiration of it?
It played a part in the inspiration of it because uh, marriage, they're more, as I put in the book, they are more enamored with the wedding the book by saying most of the hashtags that dealt with the institution of marriage dealt with weddings, wedding, but not actually the marriage, because marriage is a full-time job that you can't clock in or enamored with weddings, not really understanding marriages. And that's why we have many marriages that start off spending this because they don't understand what the institution of marriage actually is. So the objective of this book was to make their perspective and a different lens before they get into it or could reconsider and doing it again.
Okay. Okay. So I am getting you guys. I hate this because I want to make sure we get this is too good of information to let this weather. So we'll see. We're gonna keep try to keep going just a little bit. If it continues to happen, what we may have to do is just come back another night. I would hate to do that, but it would be the best thing rather than continue to freeze because I'm hearing every other word, and I just got a message that they are as well because of the freezing. And we just really can't do anything about technology and especially the weather. So, what do you got? How do you guys feel about it? You want to try to? I can. I have a few questions, and then we can see if it gives the weather a little bit of time to straighten itself out as you answer them. Yeah, he's freezing
Okay.
again. Yeah. So, I want to briefly if you don't mind, the table of contents. And I picked just a few because we don't want to give the book away. I want to go through, you have your introduction, of course, and your disclaimer, but you have one of the chapters is a relationship dictionary. And you give several, I guess, relationship types of relationship. I picked one. There's nine, and I picked one that I'd like for you to give us a little bit more information about, and it's lonely ship. And it says this relationship is based upon a person becoming fatigued from being alone. Once the lonely individual confidence is restored and clarity is gained, this person will consider other options. And I picked that one because I really believe that a lot of people find themselves in that situation. They figure, oh, I'm past the age of for women, bearing children, or this is my last choice. So I better pick this guy, even if I don't really love him or if we're not compatible. But because I'm lonely and time is running out, I think a lot of people find themselves in relationships, failing relationships and marriages because they chose out of loneliness. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were thinking or about that type of relationship? And have you ever experienced it? Okay, so yeah, we are freezing pretty bad, you guys. So here's what we will
I gotta
do. I
try.
guess
Let me
can
try to log back in on another device.
okay, okay, we'll do that. I'll keep going over some of the things while you are logging out. So you guys give us a few minutes. I'm going to read the comments while we wait for him. He's going to try from another device, and if it continues to happen, then we will know for sure that it is just the bad weather that is going through there now. So Nick Hicks, thank you. Greetings to you. Hope all is well. Jasmine Hamilton, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. Um, Kevin Lane says, hello, new man. Um, Thank you, Kevin. And again, Nick Hicks, that's the dirty South weather, bro. LOL. Yeah, it is. It is the dirty South weather. So as we give him a little bit of time to come in, you guys, I'm going to share the chapters in this book. I've already mentioned the relationship dictionary. He gives 9 types of relationships. All of them are very, very interesting. I just picked one for the sake of the show, which was the lonely ship. There's relationship hashtags. In this book, he speaks about how he was doing his research, and there's like 7.1 million hashtags about wedding hair. There is wedding dress hashtags of 34.7 million, wedding cake 7.3 million, wedding photography 30.8 million. And his reasonings for doing that, in my opinion, was to say, we do well with preparing for that day. We spend a lot of money preparing for that day. But if you look up where people are seeking the counseling or making sure that they're compatible or just having those difficult conversations with themselves, we don't do a lot of that. And I think Rodney and I have talked about how we can show up for that relationship, for that dating game pretty well. But once the marriage takes place, we lose something. So let me bring him back in and see if we are better. Let's see if this one works. So far, so good.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
very
great,
well.
great, great,
All right. No freezing.
great.
Great. So, I'm trying to think, where did we leave off? I was just mentioning, oh, I do know where we left off, the lonely ship relationship. I was sharing with them about your hashtags. We'll go back to there. But you were going to talk a little bit about the relationship dictionary. And I had mentioned again the lonely ship relationship. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, lonely ship. Oftentimes, as you indicated earlier, sometimes people get a point in a place in their life where they just choose what's available because they're lonely. There's no vetting process. There's no thinking it through. But because fertility takes place, or I'm at a certain age now, I don't want to die alone. They make decisions based upon not being lonely, and sometimes that can become very dangerous because all company is not good company. So oftentimes in the
Mhm.
relationships, we make these decisions, but not thinking about the ramifications of what the relationships bring to the table.
Okay. Rodney, any thoughts about lonely ship?
Well, I agree with Mr. Hamilton. What are some options for people who find themselves in that predicament? What are some other than the obvious, and not do it, and take your time, like if people find themselves in that predicament, what can they do?
It's actually, and that's the beauty of this book. When you read it, everything dealing with relationships is subjective. It's a title in the book I call "Get What You Want."
Mhm.
Oftentimes in relationships, we do not get what we want; we get what's available. So even with lonelyship, you have to ask yourself, "What do I really want?" And if this person does not check off all these boxes, you should not get into it. Oftentimes, we get into situations that is very convenient, but it leads to chaos. And the worst thing you want to do is just to say, I have a relationship, but the relationship is full of strife, trauma, and confusion. One thing that we don't like to talk about is having patience. Just because they're available doesn't mean that you need to be in relationships or even entertain it. So sometimes we really have to actually, like I said, vet people. Dating is an interview. What are your beliefs? What are your credit score? How do you feel about intimacy? How do you feel about conversations? Things of that nature we should really delve into in relationships before we just make a rash decision.
Do you
Um,
think people should be formal or informal going through the relationship? Meaning, should it should it be like when you say interview, should it be interviewing people in a formal manner like we do for job interviews a lot of times, even though this is over the course of more than one date, probably. Or should it be informal where you don't really, where you keep it very casual, and you allow the person to just be themselves, or you're being yourself, and not a whole lot of, well, what are you looking for, what do you want, and what are your goals and things like that. Instead of asking questions like that, um, should people just be able to just have just normal conversations, and pay attention to what they see and what they hear.
Correct. Yes, it should be formal and informal. Good question. Because you don't want to scare people off during the dating process. As you said on the first date, you don't want to say, what's your credit score? When you want to get married. You don't run people off. However, just like a job interview, you should be very strategic in your questioning and also in your listening. In relationships, especially in dating, you should spend more time listening than talking. Oftentimes, people will talk enough and tell you where they stand, but oftentimes in relationships, we're running our mouth so much and trying to figure out what we want to hear. We know what the people are actually telling us who they are. So, as you said, it should be formal and informal. Lead up with the joke. Lead up with some type of entry to get the information out of it. But you should not on the first date talk about getting married and running off into the sunset. It should be a strategic conversation that leads you to whatever you desire for that relationship to go.
That strikes a good question. Do you, and I have something from the book as well. If you are a person your desire is to be married, is it okay for marriage to come up, like, even not just about marrying that person? What are your thoughts about marriage and getting married? Is that a safe question? First rounds?
Uh, Not on first date. I wouldn't take it that far on the first date. I think on the first date, just like I said, you kind of get to feel the person out, see what their head is, kind of lead up to that. But I do think the conversation of marriage should take place, especially with women, because sometimes if lines or ideas are not clearly defined, it can create confusion. So a man may be thinking it's just a good time, we're just hanging out, nothing more, nothing less. But in the back of your mind, it's 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Where's the engagement? Where's the ring? When am I going to meet their parents? So there should be some conversations about what's really going on. Make it clear about what your intentions are, and then people can decide if, hey, I want to deal with this, if I don't want to deal with this. The last thing you want to do is be in a situation where it's gray, it's murky, and now confusion happen because you're on two different pages.
So, you know what, what is marriage to you guys? And do you think it's different for our perspectives, or our perception of marriage is different for, and I think you talk about this in the book as well. I can't remember what chapter. So what is marriage? I guess I would say, what is marriage per se? The world, what is the definition for marriage, you think, overall? And then is that the same for you? Do you have the same perception of marriage as most people do?
And this why I said this book is critical. This is reality. We can put 15 people on this broadcast tonight, and 14 of them are gonna have a different definition of marriage. It's subjective to your upbringing, your culture, your religion. All of these things create what your perspective is about marriage. So that's why it's critical while dating. You need to ask a person what is their idea of marriage, because people clearly define marriage from different perspectives. So your idea of marriage may be monogamy between a man and a woman to death do us part. Someone else may view marriage from their lens of religion or cultures or different perspectives. So from my personal perspective, marriage is a covenant between two different people who are imperfect but trying to create a perfect union to death do you apart. For someone else, it may mean something else differently. But like I said, these lines must be clearly conveyed, because for some people, as I put in early in the book, as you read, definition, some people go into marriage for financial reasons. They're
Mhm.
going in for kids. They're going in for stability. They're going in for tradition. So you have to ask that person, what do you view marriage as, and not be afraid in dating to ask questions.
I think because of that, I think it makes it very difficult, to to go into it, fully expecting, fully expecting, it to work out. And I think that makes it kind of difficult when it comes to um, listening to other people, right? Because um, even if I'm going to counseling before or during my marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I have my views about if I have my views about relationships, or if I have my views about marriage, it doesn't mean that I'm right. It just means that I have my views. And if I'm going to counseling, if the views line up with mine, then I feel good because I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm right, and because this person has a title, this person is an expert. But if the views don't line up with mine, then I'm either going to be like that person doesn't know what they're talking about, or B, I'm gonna just jump to what they say, and I'm gonna try to fit fit what they said into my marriage. And um, I think that we do a poor job of being honest with ourselves. Right? We don't take the time to learn who we are, what it is that we want, our heart's desires, and I think we allow other people to dictate those things for us. And then when we get in relationships, even marriage, and the true us shows up, and it's like, wait a minute, I don't like that. Wait a minute, I don't believe in that.
Correct.
Wait a minute, because now, yes, give me 1 second, baby. Now, but when I was trying to get you, or when I was trying to, when I was excited about this thing, it was easy for me to go along with, what people said. But now that all of that is worn off, it's like I really don't like peas, or I really don't want to sit here and watch TV, right now, or I want to go and hang out with my friends. It turns into something completely different, and I think you know I like the fact that you put it out there that it is subjective, and I think that people need to understand that it is subjective, and because it is subjective, then people need to find out what it is that they want, and they don't need to jump or get involved when it's not what they really want to do.
So I'm gonna and right, I'm gonna mute you for just a second, okay?
Oh,
Um, so so that's okay. It's just was really loud. The In the book you mentioned about the fairy tale lens. You say the truth is that in today's society, people are impeccable at getting married, but are horrible at staying married because they view marriage from a fairy tale lens. I've heard that quite a bit late these late years about and I'm going to say, especially with women, I've heard older women say that the younger women seem to want this fairy tale marriage, fairy tale man, fairy tale life. And again, in the book, you speak about how men view marriage in general versus how women view marriage. Tell us a little bit about the fairy tale lens and what has been your experience with that.
Back to like my brother Rodney said, the fairy tale lens is that, as I was stating earlier, marriage is really a covenant between two imperfect people. When we stand at the altar, that's why I put in the book "Lying at the Altar." When you stand at the altar, you are basically saying, "I am committing to a flawed person." This is
Mhm.
what you're saying. For better or for worse, for sickness and in health, for richer or for poor, for death do us apart. Oftentimes we only think about one side of the bowels and not the other side of the bowels. So we accept all of the good, but not thinking about the bad. So now we're in the euphoria of wedding dresses, music, bridesmaid, grooms, all of these things that look good for the Saturday wedding, but we don't really get into the crux of what's going to keep the marriage together. So after everyone leaves, now you have to deal with kids, family, health, death, all of these issues that tear marriages apart daily. So the fairy tale lens is that I'm looking at TV and I see X, Y, and Z getting married. I love the ambiance of the wedding, but I'm not really trained to be married. Am I willing to cook? Am I willing to clean up? Am I willing to forgive? And I'm willing to extend myself. Marriage, in essence, is an actual job. It's not a hobby. It's not for everybody. It is a full-time job that you cannot clock in or clock out of. So oftentimes people don't even have the mindset to go into a marriage, but they just caught up in the whole euphoria of weddings. And then what happens is, like Rodney said, now you with this person and you're like, I don't like this, I don't like that. This bothers me about you. And now it crumbles because you never took the time out to really analyze what you're getting yourself into.
But you guys, do you think that, in speaking about, you learn that you don't like this or you don't like that about the person, do you think just the simple idea of marriage, even after the proposal, seemingly the dynamics of the relationship changes? So certainly if just the engagement time, um it just changes. I don't know if I could say both, but I know for women, I think the from the time the guy asked that lady to marry, that something seems to change. Not for everyone, but for the most part, something seems to change. And then certainly when marriage happens, it changes again. From the male perspective, ladies, if you're out there, tell me, what do you guys think about that? Does it change? Does it seem like something changes? Because I don't think we miss what we don't like. I think we get caught up, and I'm gonna go back to one of Trent's words. We get caught up before the sweat dries. And he's talking
Mm.
about sex. We get caught up in the feeling, the emotions, the good stuff, and then when the good stuff is not, when it's there every day, you can't overlook it. Like when you're going your separate ways and doing your own thing, you don't really have to be patient. Like you said, you can't clock in or clock out. But in dating, you can go home, she can go home, you kind of have your separate lives. But when you walk through the same door and lay in the same bed against next to the same person permanently, night after night after night, it hits you in the face. So do you think we miss it, or we just ignore it, and then does marriage change things mentally?
Uh, let me play off the comment of Kevin Lane. Kevin Lane said women have the attitude of I got them. I think both parties, men and women, become very complacent in marriages. They become very complacent in marriage. The newness wears off. It's just like a child. If a child gets a new toy, that's the only toy they play with. They play with. They play with. They play with. Once the newness falls off of that toy, they no longer play with it or even pay attention to the toy until somebody else wants to play with it. If marriage is a job, then it's your objective to make sure you clock into that job every day and make sure you keep your position. Back to the book, keep up your maintenance. We get married, no longer now you keeping up your physical appearance, the conversation change, the lack of intimacy, the lack of sex. All of these things play into the element of the marriage that you have to have the mindset of this is a commitment. So if this is commitment, this is a job. Every morning I wake up, I have to apply myself to make sure I maintain the job and not become complacent. Because like I said, once again, let's be honest, after the wedding is over, after the honeymoon, now you're dealing with everyday life,
Mm-hmm.
bills, money, children, all of these different dynamics. If you're not in a stable relationship, it can destroy it.
I wonder if people's approach to marriage would change if there were no weddings, or if weddings weren't so glamorous, right? Because we all want the show, but nobody wants the rehearsal.
Right.
Everybody, you think about athletes, nobody wants to go to practice, but everybody's there for the game on Friday nights, on Sunday afternoons,
Correct.
right? And that's how we are as people. We enjoy the camera. We enjoy the spotlight, and we can fake it for a few hours, right? We can fake it for a few hours,
Few minutes.
for you a few minutes. We don't even have to be ready But man, you put this light on me, and I know people are watching. Oh man, I'm going to do this. And then when the lights are off and the show is over, then we're looking around like, well, what do I do now? And I got a question for Mr. Hamilton, right? Because
Yes,
now
sir.
it says KKH Books. Um, why do you think marriages and this is just my thought. I don't know the numbers behind this or the data. Um, but it appears to me that marriages lasted longer, let's say back in the day, than they do now. For example, like our grandparents, you know, right or wrong, or regardless of what happened in the marriage, right? They stayed married 30, 40, 50 years. Now we're lucky, if we stay married 6 months.
Correct.
If you think if you think that that's kind of valid, why do you think that couples hung in there, or couples at least stayed married? Because in some cases they weren't even living they were sleeping in the same room. But why were those couples more likely to stay married and not rush to the courthouse? Whereas, it seems like there are 10 marriages last Saturday and 30 divorces today.
Mm. Well, let's be honest. There's several elements. First and foremost, I'm gonna give two. The first thing is we have to contribute to a lot of this social media and entertainment at large. It is a monetizing thing now to get married. So if you're a celebrity, you have a following, they will actually create a show for you about getting married. Notice this: there's shows about getting married, but there's not a follow-up show about you getting divorced. It's glamorous. It look good. It makes them money. The ambiance of it, but they don't deal with the arguments, the chaos in between. Once again, let's go back to the older generation, our ancestors. It's not that they didn't have issues. It's not that they did not have problems. It's not that grandpa did not cheat on grandmother and did the things that he did. Let's be honest about that. However, once again, they understood what marriage was. And I say this again: marriage is you saying "I do" to an imperfect person. As I said in the book, as you said, I said oftentimes we look at the wedding, which is the commercial, but we don't look at the marriage, which is behind the scene. So now you're going on Facebook, you're comparing your relationship status to another couple and their beautiful family. And you don't even know before they put that picture up, they were just arguing. They're not even speaking to each other. So now you have this idea in your mind that's subjective to what someone else is doing when not really understanding the crux of marriage. So before you say I do, you have to ask yourself, if you brought up to the altar all of your baggage, all of your issues, all of your crap, will people still marry you? Or even further, if you knew who you really were, would you marry yourself?
Oh wow. Now that's deep. That's deep. That's deep. Um, what's your favorite chapter in the book? If you have one. If you had to pick one, what's your favorite?
It's several. Give me which one you think. Which chapter did you like?
It's hard, but I would have to. I got two, but that
Okay.
was hard as well. It
Okay.
was let me see. I have it right here. The family members will not forget, and the
Correct.
last one, it's not you, it's the kids.
Which one you want to deal with? Either or.
Both. Just a little bit because we don't want to give it away. And you
Okay.
guys, I we are right now going to give a book to someone tonight. You guys are gonna have to figure out a way. Let's do it. I don't know. Ask maybe someone who asks a question. The first
Whoever has
person,
the best, whoever has the best question or
the
comment.
best question. Rodney said the principal says the best question. we
Okay.
will we will get the money to him so he can send you out a book. Right now, I don't know if you heard this. I picked my two favorite chapters, which is family. Well, they're the last two. Family members won't forget, and it's not you, it's the kids. And the reason I picked these I guess because especially the family members will not forget. That is so true. We run and tell, and then we get back together, and it's different. It's different.
Correct.
And then children, I don't think we admit it enough of what changes kids bring to a relationship. Not that we
Correct.
don't love our babies, no, but you have to be really mature, patient, and know that you're in this thing to win it and to live it out when kids get into the game or into the marriage. So those were my two favorite. If you want to touch on those, you can start with family members will not forget.
At the end of each wedding ceremony I perform, I tell the couples three things. I say, keep God first, communicate at all times, and number three, I say, keep family out of your business. Because
Mm,
oftentimes it's the chatter of family members that can disrupt the marriage. And the problem is, you tell your family about your spouse, now you have forgiven them and moved on, but they have not forgotten.
mm,
And now it becomes a toxic situation internally, externally, because now you can't communicate with them without them giving you toxins, and the dynamic of their relationship becomes murky. So oftentimes in a relationship, you need to learn how to communicate with your spouse and not bring a third party in that can disrupt that. Let's be honest. Some of your family members don't even want to see you get married, or they might not even like the choice of the person that you choose to marry. So what happens then is you're seeking advice, thinking it's coming from a good place, but it's motives that's involved. And you have to be careful about the third person chatter because it can really affect your relationship. I've seen many relationships fall because family members are involved. So now, because your father doesn't agree with the man you chose to marry, now he's meddling, your mother's meddling, and it may be the very thing that God has for you or the blessing that is sent for you. Now it's disrupted because you involve someone else in your relationship.
okay. And the
Who do
children.
you if people feel like they need to they just need to vent, or they feel like, I just got to get this off my chest, or I'm angry, or I need to talk to somebody, right? And they 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 might be a praying person, right? And so we'll tell them, you know talk to God. But what if they just need to talk to um a human being? How do you suggest they go about doing that? Or who should be some people that they seek out?
Well, if you don't have access to counseling or ask a counselor, I think the best thing you should have discernment about who you can talk to, and it should be someone who's mature, who's level headed, and that tells you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
Mm.
You even need sometimes you need friends that tell you as men, "Hey, bro, you was wrong. You're not
Mm,
doing that correctly." You never take your advice to someone that cheers you and never critiques you.
mm,
You never take your advice to someone that always cheers you and never critique you. But you need someone to have a balanced perspective to say, hey, you're doing this wrong. Consider this, consider that. But if you're able to get counseling, it's great. But you always want to involve someone, a third party, if they do get involved, who has no motive or no stakes in the game, that's going to be balanced and give you wisdom to help both parties out. That's not going to articulate ideas that are one sided.
interesting. Interesting. I want to read just a little bit of that chapter, the beginning. It says the worst thing married couples can do is involve family members in their personal business. Many couples have fallen apart not because of internal strife, but from third party inputs. All couples go through a rough patch in their relationship that will stir up various emotions. It is natural for people to vent without considering the credibility of the person they are confiding within. As a married couple, you should use wisdom about what you do and do not share concerning your relationship. Learning the power of the word privacy will save your marriage a lot of heartaches. And there's so much more to that chapter, you guys. And I wanted to get that one out because I think that's probably one of the most um, overlooked things in a marriage is who we talk to and when.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe if we prayed more about our problems and seek to understand ourselves better or ask what can I do, or what did I do in this? So this brings me to a question, and I want to get to some of the comments, you guys. And don't forget to ask those questions because we're going to give a book away, or the best question or the best comment. We'll say it like that. Y'all okay with that? Best question or best comment? We'll have to just vote on that. What the book is, Marriage is Not for Everyone. What does the person in your opinion, y'all's opinion, what does that person look like, or some of the characteristics of a person who who it's clear that marriage is not for them?
You going to the first?
Both of y'all laughed. That is, y'all just like, whoa, okay.
Listen, I'm letting you take all of these first, just because you're our guest. But if you ever want me to take any of them first, I'm happy to.
You go ahead. You go ahead, and I'll come after you. It's good. That's all good.
Uh, when Tammy first told me about you and your book, I said, Tammy, I said, tell him he wrong. Marriage ain't for nobody.
I didn't tell him who said it, but I told him
She
it
told
was
me. She told me.
but in all seriousness, in all seriousness, the reason why I said it, and don't get me wrong, I think marriage is a beautiful thing. Um, and I think that it should be, and I think that it can be. And the problem is, we go into marriage with with all the wrong ideas, or we go into it with the wrong attitude. And I like what you said about um, we are saying I do to a person filled with flaws. We don't understand that. And I think the person, Tammy, to try to answer your question, and I don't even know if this person can be spotted, right? But I think if you are somebody who is willing to sacrifice who you are for the sake of marriage, I, sorry,
yeah.
somebody's
Rodney's
somebody's
baby.
trapping themselves in my flip flops. But marriage should not be losing who you are. Marriage should not be forgetting who you are. Marriage should not feel like a prison. Marriage should not feel like a trap. And so, if you are willing to compromise who you are as a, if you are willing to compromise who you are, or you want somebody to compromise who they are, or you think I'm saying I do, and for better or for worse, and you're only focusing on the better part, you have no business being married. Or you feel like, now that I'm married, I can't be Rodney, or now that I'm married, I can't be Mr. Hamilton, I can't be Tam. Like, to me, you're somebody who doesn't get it, because marriage should be to enhance your life. I think marriage should not take away from your life. It should not mean that when I was single, I enjoyed going home. But now that I'm married, oh man, I'm sitting in the car and finding all types of reasons not to go in the house. Like those are people who should not be
Can
married.
I
Or
ask
I'm
you a
working.
question?
Go ahead.
Oh, that one right there, what you just said. If someone finds themselves themselves in the car not wanting to go in, because because I believe that there are going to be those days. And I think the fairy tale lens, and y'all can help me here, but to think that you are not going to, I used to have this thing about there are going to be those days where you hate to hear the garage door go up. Whether it's you needed a little bit more me time, it's not that you don't love the person. And I think we need to grow up
Wow.
emotionally. And that person, to me, because to get back to the not wanting to go in, there are going to be those days where you don't want to go in for whatever reason. It could have been a hot um, um, argument, disagreement, whatever. So it's not that you don't want to go in. It's, have you learned what to do when you go in? What to say, how to say it when you go in. So do you think that
But
not wanting to go in is a bad thing or a good thing or neither?
I I think if it's on a regular basis, you
Right.
got a problem. It should not be on a regular basis. If you reached a
Okay.
point to where you don't want to go in every day or 5 days out of the week, something's wrong with that. And it's also about your reason why you don't want to go in, right? If I don't want to go in because I don't want to hear your mouth, because I got to hear your mouth every day, like you
So
know.
where does that lie into the person that marriage is not marriage? You said marriage is not for everyone, and I asked what does that person look like? What does that person look like that marriage is not for?
I
What
think
does that
I
person
think
look
if it's a person who's judgmental, um, if you're judgmental, Nadia, if you're a person who's judgmental, I worry about you being married
like? A
because
judgmental one.
yeah, I think judgmental people have no business getting married because
That
if
would
you're
be everybody, y'all.
well, no, I mean like people who are just like every single thing, like they got something to say about every single thing, like
Okay.
you don't in a minute you don't belong
Well,
like
you can get it right, and we'll let him go and answer so we can go ahead.
we're not getting ice cream. It's almost 9 o'clock. We ain't getting ice cream.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hamilton.
I think one of the characteristics of that person is if you're selfish. That's why one of the chapters is called if your singleness is for selfish people. If you're selfish, you should not even consider marriage. Now, this goes back to the deeper point of love is a verb and not a noun. Love is an action word.
Mm,
So you have to put yourself aside to make sure that this marriage work. So if you're with someone, even dating, and it's always about them and not about you, then you shouldn't even consider marriage with them. So if you're always putting yourself first, marriage is not, it shouldn't even be in the back of your mind, the front of your mind, the side of your mind, nowhere near you. Because marriage is in essence a sacrifice. How much you're willing to sacrifice to maintain this union. And when you're single, you can move as you please, you can eat when you want to eat, you can go as you want to go. But if you're one of them people that say, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, stay single. But it's selfish of you to say, I want to do what I want to do, but at the same time, I want you here to appease me in this. So if you're a very selfish person, you like your house a certain way, your car a certain way, stay single. And that's the part of this book I'm trying to get forth. It's okay to say marriage is not for me, but don't bring someone else in your mess just because you don't want to be lonely or just
so
because
do
you.
y'all now I was gonna say, do y'all think those things like judgmental and then we'll read the comments. Judge Rodney said judgmental. Yours was mostly, I think, self you're a selfish person.
I
So
do
those are
agree
two
with I do
things.
agree with selfish. I really I think selfish should be number one.
Correct.
Do y'all think those things don't show up? And that was my point earlier. Do you think those things don't show up before marriage? Do you think someone can clearly um keep those things from a person, or do we just want to be married so badly that we look over those things that we know?
But that's why I open up the book of dating is an interview. People
Okay.
show who they are, but are you paying attention to them? If you're a selfish person, you're a selfish person. I.e., every time we go out to eat, we have to go where you want to go. We have to
Yeah,
talk about what you want to talk about. We have to spend time with your family, but you have no interest in spending time with my family. I have to invest into your life, your religion, your faith, but you want to have nothing to do with my faith. People show these things, but once again, as Rodney said earlier, we just want to run to the altar because it look good, it feel good, and we know these things in the back of our
It's
mind.
the thing
We
to do.
compartmentalize them, we put them to the side, and it's not until you're angry, upset, and now miserable. Now, truth comes out of the marriage, but you knew from the get go who you were dealing with. But also, too, let's be honest, some people are good at acting.
Hmm.
I got a question
But
before you
some
go to
people
the
are bad
comments.
at seeing too. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
got
Well,
a
You're correct.
I got a question. Um, do you think that the reason why we can see these things, right? We hear these things, we're watching people's behaviors, and even though it bothers us, or we know it's a red flag, or we know it's something that we don't like. Do you think the reason why people move forward anyway, outside of just loneliness, because I do think that that's a part of it, but do you think another reason is because we are constantly told nobody's perfect, hang in there, um, you know, you're never going to find the person who has all of the things. So we hear these things, and so do you think that that's why we're like, okay, like I don't like this about this person, but I like all these other things, so let me compromise, or let me give a little here, um, because I do like these other things about this person. Do you think that we are a victim of the advice that we receive sometimes?
No, it's subjective.
mhm.
Once again, let's be honest. Love should never excuse people from being accountable. When we love people, sometimes we excuse them from
Excellent.
being accountable. So then we make excuses for them. Oh yeah, I know that. I know he's abusive because he had a rough life. What about accountability? We excuse these things away because we want to look past what's really going on and not their reality. But the part of love is love holds you accountable. I know you. I know where you have fallen. I know your flaws. Now let's deal with that. So we should never
Mm,
sweep it under the rug, act as if it doesn't exist. And the deal breaker should be it's subjective. You have to ask yourself, what am I willing to put up with? Not what you're willing to put up with. What am I willing to put up with?
mm.
So example, if I don't like someone who smokes all day, who's not clean, that's my prerogative if I don't want to be with them. Your opinion doesn't matter because I have to live with them, not you. So you have to be honest with yourself, have honest conversation. I may love you, you may be attracted, you may make good money, but can I or am I willing to deal with this?
Okay, you bring up a great point, and then I promise you guys we're going to read the comments. You bring up a great point, and I'm going to use the one about cleanliness because
Okay.
you guys, I have heard so many guys talk about she doesn't clean up, she doesn't clean up, the house is not clean. And my question to them is, what did the house look like before you married her?
Mm,
And it's usually the blank stare, the quietness, because it was the same. So what is it that makes us think the ring, the wedding day, and the marriage will change those things, especially without a conversation like, hey babe, can we do better with cleaning the house? Before, because if they weren't clean before, and that's just one thing, you guys, this book is so much more than that, but something that simple, so simple, can start the marriage out on the wrong page or direction. So I like you said, some people are bad at whatever it was, and I think that I said they're also bad at seeing. You said they're good at faking, and I said, but some people are also bad at seeing
correct.
because we have this idea that we are supposed to be married, and I so agree with you. Not everybody even desires to be married. They just think it is the thing to do, and if I'm not, I'm less valuable, or I won't be this or that. Not everybody, and I it's interesting that you being a pastor, and I wanted to ask you, and you can answer after we read the comments. Do you get kickback because you are a pastor saying marriage is not for everyone? If you could answer that for me after we read the comments. So let's get going here, you guys. If I missed your comment, let me know and I'll try to get it on because I don't know where we left off. um Joe Torres said lonely ship is very common. Hello, Mario. How are you? Thank you for joining us. I did have a comment from Kevin Lane that I wanted Kevin and Mario actually to comment more on. He said, "Nah, marriage is still marriage. You new cats are the ones confusing things up." And I asked you guys to tell me what is marriage to you guys and what does that mean? Who are the new cats and how are they confusing things as it relates to marriage?
New
Um,
cats, new cats learn from old cats. Just saying.
well, that's why I wanted to ask, who is the new cat and how are they
I'm only
screwing up
messing with
marriage?
Kevin. I'm only
Right,
messing
you
with
got to mess
Kevin.
with Kevin because he's been very something here lately,
I gotta
controversial.
mess.
I
I
don't know
gotta
what
mess with him.
yeah. So and he's got Mario riding on the same train. So Mario, get off that train, baby, get off of it.
But
Um,
but in all honesty, he's slightly right though, and that's why I
what
said
about the new cats?
it's subjective because I view marriage as marriage still being married. But when 2021, if you sit down and talk to people who you're actually dating or going to get married to about what marriage is for them, you'll be shocked at some of the opinions they give.
Well,
I wanna come back to that because I think that ties into some other stuff. But go
what
ahead, Tim. I want to
Kevin's
come back.
statement, Kevin's statement, or what he said, what he just said. Which one? Both? You want to come back to both of them?
No, just
Or Kevin's statement?
about about sitting down and and talking to people today about
Okay,
their
super.
idea of
Okay,
marriage.
well, you remember it, Rodney, because I won't.
If I forget, it's okay.
Okay. Um, so let's see. Deshaun Whitehead said big facts, nothing but the truth. He says again. Kevin, we did mention when he said women have an attitude of I got 'em. That's interesting. If women have the attitude of I got 'em, what do you think the attitude of men is after marriage? So if women say I got him, I'm just interesting. What are the men saying after marriage? What are their thoughts? You guys tell us. Then Torian,
Can I watch the game?
is it that simple?
It is that simple.
Wow. Okay, you guys, tell me more because, and women, I want to hear from you guys too, because I don't remember feeling like I got him. I don't. I really don't. But my perception of marriage, I think, is totally different. So, Love Q says you're right, and I'm not sure where we were in the conversation. Torian says spitting nothing but facts. Torian says I don't think the weddings would change anything. It's the reality of life after I do. Torian, what is the reality of life after I do? And I know Rodney's saying I can't watch the game. So let's see. Where am I? Random. My aunt dated her boy for Kevin says his aunt dated her guy for 20 years, literally, got married and divorced in 2 years. Really? We need to have them on the show. Deshaun says people get married for a show sometimes.
Correct.
Kevin, that was the weirdest thing to me. Yes, he's talking about the 20 years. Y'all, that's that, but you hear that a lot. People will date for a lifetime and then they get married and boom. So something happens, you guys, after married, being married.
Because marriage ain't for nobody. I'm
Rodney,
messing.
cut yourself out. That is not true.
I'm messing, Pastor.
So Christopher Campbell says everyone wants the visual part of marriage. They don't want to do the work to accomplish the vision. If they even have a vision about marriage, if they have a conversation, what is our vision? That's a good one, Kevin. Christopher, that's a good one. Deshaun says no social media. B Sims, our grandparents understood hard work and commitment. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with just the understanding of it and what it takes. Um, Tori and Jewel says marriage meant more back in the days, and even the image of the family was more protected by the family, which is why they handled things in house but looked good to the public. Love says exactly. Love Q says exactly to that. We'll get to some more of them. Chris says, right write the picture perfect image on social media. And I think he's just talking about how people show up. And if I'm wrong about that, how people show up on social media versus what's really going on. Um, so we'll, and then Chris says, yes, communication is tough to learn how to navigate between two people without adding a third party. Torian says therapist, and we'll get to some of the other ones just a little bit. But you were going to answer about, and then we'll go back to Rodney's question. You were going to answer, do you get any pushback from people about writing this book, the title being a pastor?
Well,
Because you're a pastor.
to my shock, a lot of people have been saying, especially men, have been saying they're happy that I wrote this book. It's been liberating for a lot of people, even some people that have been married or even considering marriage again, because in the church culture, we tell people to marry for all the wrong reasons. You know, I grew up in the church culture of you need to marry, better to marry than to burn with lust. So now people are running to the altar because they're trying to fight their sexual desires, not even understanding what marriage is. So now you're in a marriage because you got a child out of wedlock, or you're trying to live holy within the church you come in contact with, but you're not even understanding what the covenant of marriage is. Oftentimes the church doesn't even prepare us to be husbands or prepare us to be wives. It's not even a topic of conversation of how a man should conduct business, how a woman should conduct business. So shockingly to me, a lot of people, and a lot of people that's been much older than me, some people I consider as mentors, really enjoyed the book because they're saying it's really dealing with the nuts and the bolts of what
Mm-hmm.
marriage is and dealing with the reality of it. That's the biggest thing for me. I wrote this book because I wanted people in my generation to deal with the reality of marriage and not just jump into something and not understand the full ramifications of it.
What is the reality of marriage?
It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing with the generation that doesn't like hard work because everything is given so easily and everything is quick and accessible. You know, it's hard work. It's something that you have to put time, space, energy into. It's not. It's in my opinion, marriage is an investment. When you invest into it, it's what you're going to get out of it. And a lot of us don't want to have the time and the energy to invest into it. And like I said, it's really hard work. We spend a lot of energy on our businesses, our bodies, our minds. But as far as marriage, we put small amount of time in it, and we think we're going to see the fruits of it, but we don't understand what hard work is. You know, what do you do when your spouse loses your job? What do you do when your spouse gets sick? Are you ready or mentally able to even deal with these realities? Are you capable of saying, I'm not going out with my friends because I have to go home to my spouse who's sick? I have to put myself on a budget now because my spouse just got fired. These are things you have to ask yourself. And if you're not committed to hard work, if you don't know about sticking to something, just don't get married.
I had I had an individual tell me not long ago they would rather have loyalty instead of love. And you know, some may argue that loyalty it should come with it, right? It should come with love. And even in the Bible, it says that the greatest of of all of these is love. Um, but the point that they were making was, that they would rather have somebody who is going to do those things that you said, Pastor. Um, who is going to put themselves on the budget, who is going to be there for them, no matter what. Um, who they know like is gonna pick them up, when they fall down or while they're falling down. They're not even gonna let them hit the ground. Um, as opposed to somebody who constantly is talking about "I love you," who's talking about "I love you," right? And so I think, and this, and to your point, this was a younger person, right? Who said this, and they also said, like, I don't care about all of these other things. They said what matters to them is where do you stand when it comes to them. I'll be back.
So I'm I'm not sure where he was going there, but want your opinion on this, and we want to bring you back. I want you guys who are listening to get this book, and maybe we could just have an online private conversation, chapter after chapter. It is that good, you guys. No joke. I'm not trying to sell him. I don't get anything from
Thank you.
this. I don't get anything from doing this tonight, Rodney. Not, we're just here because to me, marriage and relationship is one of the most beautiful things in the world, or thing in the world. But you guys, it didn't become so beautiful to me until I became beautiful to myself.
Mm.
I didn't see, I need to plug my computer up. I didn't see love. Plug my computer up. I didn't see love like I see love now, or people, until I loved myself, knew what that really means to love yourself. And one way you know how to love yourself, or answer the question, do I, is the company that you keep. So I no longer look at what's wrong with the person. If there's something wrong with the person in front of me that I've chosen, then I want to know, what is it in me that missed it or saw it and just decided that it was okay, that I could avoid it.
Powerful.
I mean, for me. So I want you guys to get this book. I've decided. Gwen, you're on. I hope you're still on Gemstone. We're gonna do two books. One of them is yours, just because she's my childhood friend, know her from way back, you guys, and I'm just thankful that she's on. And my heart just said she's one of them. So I'll do the extra.
Correct.
So there's still one book out. But let's see, I don't even know where to start, but commitment is, can I love you when I don't like you? And the reason, and this is one of your hashtags. So commitment is, can I love you when I don't like you? And that's what I meant about, there are going to be those days where you don't want to go in the house, or you're in the house and the garage door or the door opens and you like, dang, he's home. Dang, she's home. Those days will come. And I think we also forget to look at not just how a person loves you, but who and how that person is when he does not like you, when she does not like you, when you did something that does not quite measure up. How he or she fights is as
Correct.
important as how he or she loves you. What
Correct.
are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. In the Bible, the first attribute of love is patience. Love is patience. So you have to be patient with someone when you love them. And I totally agree. And that's why I try to push the point in the book that love is an action word. It's not about feelings, it's about facts. You can
Mhm.
talk a good game about how you love someone, but what are the facts behind that? Am I able to still tolerate you when I've seen the worst of you? Am I able to forgive you? Am I able to see the best in you when you don't even see the best in yourself? So all of these things you really have to consider. And also, like you said, the biggest thing about marriage is marriage causes you to look at the mirror for yourself.
Exactly.
If you are flawed, marriage will expose that. Whatever weaknesses, whatever holes you have, once you get married, it will expose that. It's not that when you get married, you turn into this impeccable husband or wife and things changes, but actually marriage only exasperates who you really are, because now complacency comes in, and now you're able to be comfortable with the person, and then you reveal who you really are. So as you said, on both ends of the spectrum, not only am I asking you to change some things, but in marriage, I must be willing to change myself.
Right. And I really believe that there, in every situation, as it relates to whether it's a love type, a family type, that there is room for you to grow. And if we would say, how did I show up here? How did we get here? What is my input? But instead, I think, and this would be the person that marriage is not for. If you're not willing to look at every situation and see yourself in it, see where you are in the midst or amidst of that situation, because it's never one person's fault, ever,
Correct.
ever.
Correct.
So um I don't know. All I can tell you guys is tell them how to get the book, and maybe I'll put, and then we're going to read the rest of the comments. We have quite a few comments. So
Correct.
I'm going to put up, and I hope, is it your webpage the best?
Ye-
Because I have, is that the
Yes,
best place to purchase it?
yes, yes.
Um,
My webpage,
okay. So,
www.kkhbooks.com. We have ebooks and also we have the paperback books. You can go on there and purchase the books tonight.
and I have it up, you guys. And again, we're going, who wants this second book? Just tell us who. We're going to read the comments and then you guys will get ready to come to a close. Are you open to coming back?
Yes, I am. Yes, I
Okay.
am.
So that we can, because we don't want to give the book away, you guys. So we've not, there's so much more, there's chapters that we have not touched. There's so much that I have highlighted and read and
I can tell.
I mean, literally, like, I don't even know where to start, but
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away without you guys, because the purpose is for you to read it and really get the meat of it. So let's read a few comments and we're going to have him come back, but you guys get the book. The ebook is how much, and how much is the actual book
The
itself?
ebook is $10 and the actual book is 18.
Okay. Okay. And they can get it. The website is there.
Correct. Straight off
On
the
the
website.
page, straight out the website. So let's go back to some of these comments. Where did I stop, you guys? Oh wow, you guys got some good comments,
Yeah.
man.
Yes, a lot of comments.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at them
um,
right now.
um, let's see. Great. Jim says, great discussion. I need to, okay, we did get her. So I went back too far. Kevin said, you lost us. Okay, I guess we're old on that. Okay, we will have to evaluate what's most important to us individually. That's from Chris Campbell. Unpack the baggage together deep, because there is baggage, and that's another thing. Like, we think our stuff doesn't stink. We always think it's the other person, but
Mhm.
unpack. Know that first that you have baggage, and be willing to say. And I think that's your imperfect. We're both imperfect people
Mhm.
chapter.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect, imperfect.
yeah,
Correct.
you got to get out of that fairy tale land. And then Chris says a deal breaker could be leaves dishes in the sink. It really could, but it's always about so much more, because I think just like dishes pile up, we let things pile up without getting. You talk a lot about understanding in the book as well, getting a clear understanding about everything, you guys, and that means you have to have those difficult conversations. And I just believe as couples and people all together, we don't communicate effectively. We don't communicate enough. We don't say the things that are difficult to say. And if people say them, we don't know how to take it and handle it, because we think we are perfect people dealing with an imperfect spouse. And it's so not true. Jim Stone says, something I've learned from failed relationships is that if you go into it expecting the person to change, it's already a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting the book, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But we still got one more. Deshaun Whitehead says, should you stay together before getting married? I say yes. But hey, what do you think? Y'all think about that. Yes or no? And I'll go down to read the other ones. When they show, well, let me say this. I think it's up to the people. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to really get to see and know people in that light. You can stay in different rooms if you like. I don't care, but do whatever. But I think you should see people in the light of every day and every.
I think exactly. I think that should be a part of premarital counseling.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Even if
Exactly.
you just do it temporarily, because I'm
Correct,
telling you,
correct.
you
And that's
show
why
up.
even with longer distance relationship, that's why I often fail, because you're able to compartmentalize your behavior for a short amount of time.
Amen.
But when you actually stay with someone daily, then you're able to see who they are. So if I'm only seeing you 3 days out of the week, I can behave a certain way within that time frame. But now you're married, it's 7 days a week, 168 hours. Now you have to deal with me. And how do you deal with that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kevin says, when they show you who they are, believe them the first time. Chris says, men attitude is you got me, didn't you? Oh, he was talking about, we said, I got him. And the man says, you got me, didn't you? So, B. Sim says, guys say the same thing. I got them. I think they probably do. They just whisper it, and don't say it out loud. I mean, really, really, I think y'all do. And that's another thing you talk a little bit about the difference in just the makeup of man versus woman. I think that's one of the most misunderstood things, because we are wired so different. The way
Correct.
that we think, certainly about the perception of marriage and all of that, but we are wired so different, which brings that different perspective and our projection of those things that happen in the marriage. Like Rodney says, if I could just watch the game, if I could just watch one game
Yeah.
without something, but it's just that simple sometimes, you guys. Um, oh, somehow just y'all, we have so many. Women are emotional and men are logical. B. Sims says that offense is huge in relationship, especially marriage. That's another note from B. Sims. Um, You're welcome, Jim Stone. You deserve the book. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. Um, Kevin Lang, I'm not going to deal with your stuff. We'll talk about that offline. Um,
Hey, Tammy, can I jump in here real quick?
yes, please.
Um, you and I talk about this a lot. Um, if we got people to participate in conversations, and I don't just mean you and I, but I mean in general, if people participated in conversations, um, the same, the in non-relationship type topics as they do in relationships, it might help them in relationships. You say anything about a relationship, or you say anything about sex, say anything about courting, oh man, everybody has an opinion, right? But if you start talking about, if you want to do it, if you want to have host a show on integrity, or you want to talk about, uh, development as a person, you want to talk about self-respect, talk about maturity, talk about goals. I mean, you want to talk about everything else. Nobody has anything to say, and that's where I think the work is. I think I think getting into like other discussions will allow us to see ourselves for who we really are and help us when it comes to relationships. Because going back to what Pastor Hamilton said, it is very subjective, right? And so for me, when people ask me questions, if it's a specific question, I'll try to answer it. But I often warn them, I can only tell you how I do things and how I feel about it. But you got to ultimately do what works best for you. And I think that when we focus on the other things, when we focus on the other topics, the ones that Pastor Hamilton mentioned in the book, when we really get into the meat of it or the heart of it, I think that's what brings out the better person. It's just like playing sports, right? You show up for the game. The coach really just calls plays and it's about execution. But all of that comes from what you did in practice. It comes from the conditioning, the sprints that you ran, the drills that you did. Comes from going over the plays in practice. It comes with being at practice on time. So many things. All we see is the Super Bowl. We don't see the off-season workouts, right? We don't see the amount of time that these people put into the gym. We don't see like how they're meeting up with trainers. We don't see, like the blood and the sweat and people getting upset at practice and guys fighting, and like we don't see all of this stuff behind the scenes, right? Because nobody wants to do that stuff. If
Hmm.
there was a way that I could be in shape without ever exercising, I would exercise, but it's impossible, right? If I want to be in shape, I got to exercise. But we don't want to do the things that are going to make us successful in the game. We just want to show up to the game and think, oh, I'm married, it's all good, I got him or I got her. And and it can't be that. It's going to take some work. And I think the work can get easier, but you got to be willing to do the work.
I agree. I agree. Any final words? And we're going to bring him back, you guys. I was thinking, Gemstone, I'm going to throw this out there, and I hope you're still listening. Since you're going to get a book, maybe when we have this conversation again, and dig a little bit deeper, we could invite, and maybe we can give the book away to a male who's willing to also come on with us the next time we're on and tell us what you got from it, what questions you have, how do you think it will change? Has it changed you, and how will it change your relationship? How do you want it to change your relationship? So, Gemstone, I hope you are willing to do that. And if so, we'll talk offline. And if not, then if there's another lady that I'm still going to give the book to Jim as well, but that is would like to come on and express, what they got out of it. So we'll give you time to read it, and then we'll kind of have without giving too much of the book away. And this it's hard to do that anyway because it's a small book, but it's so deep. Like it's so deep, you guys. I have colored this book. It's like a coloring book.
Mhm.
And I feel like I do really I'm gonna say I feel like I do really good now with showing up in relationships. And I failed before. But
Mm.
again, you guys, but it's because I understand that it takes work, and I want it to work, and I know that I'm imperfect and so is he. But it's all good. So I learned so much from this, in spite of feeling like, wow, I've grown so much. I grew more. I went after reading this. Um, so with that being said, you guys, we got to pick somebody tonight.
Deshaun Whitehead said he wanted a copy in the comments.
Deshaun said he wanted a copy.
Yes, he did.
Okay. All right. I missed that somehow. Deshaun, are you willing to come on live with us? You got to
Uh,
read the book. And we may give away some more, you guys. This is good. This is good. So I'm gonna
We
reach
all
out.
we also want people to buy the book.
That's why I said buy it. I'm gonna
Yes,
give these
absolutely.
away. I'm gonna buy them to give them away. I'm gonna pay him, and Pastor Ham is gonna mail them out to you. So you'll have to give him your address and all that. I'm not getting into that. If you want it, you got to put the work in. I'll pay for it, but you got to get him your address so that he can send it out. In a few weeks from now, we'll come back, have like a little book review about what you got from it, answer your questions. What was your favorite chapter? And all of those things, and how has it changed you after reading it? And then, because you guys, as I said, relationships are are one of the greatest things ever. We need people. We need to feel connected and loved and valued, but most of all, understood. But no
correct.
one can understand you if you don't first understand yourself. If you don't know what you want, he does not know what you want, or she does not know what you want. So you got to put the work in to grow as well. Because if marriage is not for you, I believe marriage is for anybody or anyone who's willing to grow.
Hmm.
Anybody. So, um, yes, it's on the website. Let's see. B Sims. I don't
Is
know.
is the book available in ebook format as well?
Yes, when you go on the website, the first prompt will put you on paperback, but also you'll see on the tab there's an ebook section. For ebook is $10. So yes, both is available on the website.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yes, and B Sims, thank you for that. She was telling you guys, yes, it is on the website. Yes, Kevin, it is on the website, and the website is listed here, you guys. So make sure you write it down. If not, you can go back and replay this. Kevin says, and we'll end with this. And I'll try to answer more of these, or Pastor Hamilton, maybe you can go out there and kind of answer some of them too. He says men want to provide and be recognized for providing. Women want security. and love, and just love. Simple, unconditional love. Because I'll say this, and I'm gonna really end it here if you guys are ready. Women, we don't know what we want really. Like, I'm not. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm like y'all. I'm not putting us down, but when you just keep it real with yourself, we are some of the most. But we're so loving. I'm not saying anything bad about us. God designed us. And I think that's why he says, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Because we can want, I'll leave it here. I bought some really nice perfume. Loved it. Loved it. Got it home 2, 3 days later. Don't even like it. Who does that? Who does that?
No
Like,
comment.
oh, who does that? Like, I see so many little things that might drive a man crazy in us. But you gotta love us because we didn't create us and we didn't tell you to love us as Christ loved the church. But if you get us there, we will get you there. I promise you we will. We will. So, last word, you guys, if there's more.
Just
Anything?
thank you for having me tonight, and I greatly appreciate the love and the support that you've given me. And I look forward to being back on again.
Okay.
www.kkhbooks.com. Marriage is not for everyone. Go and read it and let it marinate. And it's a great book, and I promise you it will bless you.
Okay. And so in a few weeks we'll bring you back and I'll get with you about how to cash app you. And again, Jim, and we're gonna do Deshaun. And I think Deshaun said he was willing to join us. I think.
Okay.
I think.
You
I hope I didn't overlook that. And again, I may reach out to some more of you because you guys have showed up tonight. Thank you. And if you want a book, um, message me and let me know. We'll work it out. Okay.
Yeah.
And Rodney, any final words?
And press that share button. Make sure you share the telecast on tonight.
Please, please. Thank you for that reminder. Share.
I think this was great, Pastor Hamilton. Thank you for joining us, coming on with us. I think you gave out a lot of good, information without telling, the heart of the book.
Mhm.
I'm intrigued. I want to read it. And and learn more about where you're coming from. And so I encourage everybody else to join me, to join Tammy, in doing the same thing.
Yeah. Y'all
So
get
thank
together,
you.
have book clubs, have conversation. That's what I think we need to do more of as well. Rodney, you talked about that. But we need to let other people know that our relationship is not all gravy all the time. That sometimes it's some good old mashed potatoes. No
Correct.
thanks.
And we need to understand that people's relationships are may not be what you see. That there's a lot more that goes on.
Never is.
So don't look at anybody's situation and become jealous or say I want that, because people are going to, you're only seeing what they're putting in front of you.
Correct.
Exactly. Exactly. That's in that talk, he talks about that in the book as well, you guys.
Mhm.
Um, so get the book. Let's plan to come back in a few weeks. But we will let you guys know. I'll if you listen tonight, I'll tag you to make sure that you know that we're back on, and hopefully we'll have Jim Stone and Deshaun joining us, Deshaun Whitehead, and I'll get with Pastor Hamilton about getting the books to you guys. And if there's someone else out there that wants a book, um, we'll make it happen. I'll make it happen. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks, Rodney. Just this has been great. Thank you all for staying and for listening. We love you. Go and be great and know that marriage is for anybody who's willing to see themselves and change. All right. All right. Great night, you guys.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
And I have a good one.
All right.